I want to start this off by first and foremost saying thank you for being that case study in perseverance that you are. I appreciate
Oh,
it because a lot of people that had a turnpike experience like you did, they could have easily said, we got to do this another time. I'm good. And let's just come at this another way. And then we had our technological issues, and we could have said, listen, let's just call it a day, call it a wrap. But that's not our makeup.
no,
And I think
no.
that's why we connect as we do. And I know where you get it from. You get it from Miss Nolly. That's where you get it from.
Yes. Yeah,
I
my
was telling my
mom,
wife
you
about
know
Miss
my
Nolly. I was like, ooh, she was nice mean. She was nice mean. But but but
mom.
always I remember saying, boy, get the class. Boy, get the class.
That
I
that's
remember.
that's her. Dignity and respect.
Yes,
Dignity and respect.
indeed. But I
And
want to say
my
that
dad was like,
when you came to Stockton, you were a presenter for the Women in Academia conference,
"Yep.
and you did an outstanding job.
Oh, thank you."
Here's how you know how when you do something well. When somebody that knows you for a long time can't distinguish between who they know and who they're seeing.
Wow.
If you can understand
Wow.
what I'm saying.
Wow.
It's
Yeah, I
like,
gotta
I know that's Liz, but
marinate
that
on that
don't
for
look
a
and
minute.
sound like Liz. Who is that? That's how you know you're walking in your purpose.
Yes,
When you're
absolutely.
undistinguishable from what people think they know about you. You are in your element.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely. And
here's what I want to ask
purpose
you.
is the key word
How did
there.
you get to that place? How did you get there?
Oh, well, it's a journey. It was a journey. I'm 50 years old, and it's been a journey. Some of it was on purpose, and some of it sort of evolved. I've always had this calling to write, or as a writer, my day job requires me to write, and I've always written. And people forever have been telling me, "You should write a book. You should." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah." And long story short, I started my company. The company I was working for a few years ago was going through some downsizing. So I started working with this career coach, and what I thought was, a journey to get a backup plan to find, to improve my chances in my job search. But
Mm-hmm.
she was a different kind of coach, though. She challenged me. She said, "Well, what do you want to do?" I was like, "What do you mean? I'm in communications. I'm in marketing. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I've always done. This is what I'm going to do." And she's just like, "I don't get the sense that that's your passion and that's your purpose." I was like, "Okay."
Uh,
And because I was like, "Well, what makes you say that?" She's like, "Because you get so excited when you talk about your volunteer work and when you talk about your blogging and you talk about other things, but that not so much." And basically, she challenged me to draft and articulate and claim my purpose statement. And
uh,
it was probably the hardest but most transformational thing I've ever done for myself. And because it impacts everything I do, not just from a career standpoint, but in my personal journey as well. And I never would have done that without her guiding me through the process of doing that. And so what you saw at Stockton was one manifestation of sort of the now Liz, the Liz I'm becoming in walking and living in her purpose. So
I like that word becoming because, like you, I'm tipping 50, and I tell people I'm just getting started. I'm just
yep,
getting started. You ain't seen nothing yet. Just keep watching.
that's
And
right.
you use the word transformational. Can you delve into that word transformational and what that means to you from a personal perspective in your journey?
Whew. Wow. In its simplest terms, it means profound and connected change. Because change, it's more than just change, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not change sake, um, but it's it's change that connects you to other things in the universe, right? Because we all have pulls, and I know you're a pastor, so pastors call their pull a calling, right? And we
Absolutely.
all have we all have callings and things that we were called to do, and we have gifts, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if in spiritual terms they call them talents, right? So And we don't always honor those things. I know I didn't honor mine. I just took it for granted that everybody could write and everybody, could teach and everybody could do whatever, like
Yep.
you take these for granted because they're sort of organic to you. But when you talk about transformation, it's about honoring those gifts, honoring those talents, and claiming, articulating, and being clear about your purpose, and then honoring the things that you're called to do. And versus like me, I had been living my life of expectation of what other people expected and what was expected of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so the transformation for me was, one, to recognize that I was being dutiful and responsible and doing all acceptable and all the other bowls you can think of. And but I wasn't really being 110% authentic and true to myself. So to
Uh-huh.
me, that's the heart of transformation, is about, oh, my dog just walked in here. I'm sorry.
Uh, this is why I love live. I love
That's why
live
he
because you
was
just
going line.
roll with
He
it.
almost
You don't get a chance
he
to say
almost
cut. You just roll with it. I
he almost
love it.
he almost knocked over the light. So I didn't want you to think an earthquake was happening in the middle of the thunderstorm we just persevered through today. But I wasn't. But to get back to purpose and transformation, it's about connecting with your truth and living in that truth in a very authentic way, being yourself.
Hmm. And you've used the word purpose several times. And can you speak to that gnawing, nagging feeling that people of purpose they get when they're out of their purpose? It's a whole different feeling that's indescribable. Do you get
Hmm.
that feeling? Speak,
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about, talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, I like to think that I've had a pretty successful career in corporate America. Let me just say that, right? So I'm a vice president of a major corporation. I've managed people, I've rubbed elbows with celebrities, traveled all over the world, and worked for some of the biggest companies in the world and things like that. But when I'm standing in front of a room of people teaching, when I'm writing, when I'm
Hmm.
blogging, um, when I'm talking about my book, or thinking about my next book or my next online class or whatever, when I'm doing those things, there's a joy and a joyfulness that comes through. And that's why I couldn't let this particular opportunity pass because it's joyful to me, even with the challenges, the technology, and the
Hmm.
traffic and all that kind of stuff. It's joyful talking about this stuff because for years I've heard people, everybody watches Oprah and Tony Robbins and whatever, and they talk about joy and purpose and this and that, and I was like, want, yeah, you know what I mean? But once I
Hmm.
connected with, it all sounds like buzzwords and things like that, but once I connected with my purpose journey, and every opportunity I have to connect with my joy and my purpose, there's not a feeling like it. It doesn't feel like work. Like, this wasn't a
Hmm.
challenge tonight. This was a
If
joy,
if you
to
find what you
overcome.
do, you'll never work again a day in your life.
That's it. That's it. It doesn't feel like work, and I'm like, wow, I could really do this.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
it's that feeling. There's no obligation behind it. It's because you want to do it. You feel like you're helping people or being of use to others. And it's where there's this graphic that I'm going to use in my presentation at the Power Talk seminar that's coming up around purpose. And it's sort of the intersection, and it shows kind of visually, it's the intersection of what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, what you could get paid to do, and what's helpful to the broader society. So, like, I
Hmm.
love to sing, but I'm not good at it, and nobody people will pay me not to sing. And there's no societal good that comes with that. So that's not my purpose, even though it makes me happy to do it, right? I enjoy doing it. But
Hmm.
when I'm writing, when I'm teaching, when I'm running a workshop, doing things like this, all four of those forces are at work. And that's how I know that I'm in the right space.
Now, I hope you have a copy of your book next to you.
I do.
Can you
You
hold
told
that
me
up?
to. So here it is.
Yeah.
Great work, great rewards. 7 secrets for breaking the performance punishment cycle. Available on Amazon.com and at LizNollyTillman.com. Okay, there's my commercial.
Okay. Now, I want you to do that again. I want you to slow that commercial down
Okay, all
because
right, hold on.
you went through. You know how the people try to sell your car, and at the end of it, they do.
So my book is Great Work, Great Rewards, 7 Secrets for Breaking the Performance Punishment Cycle. And performance punishment, the book is based on my own research, my own personal journey in corporate America. And performance punishment is that state that many of us find ourselves in when the only reward for doing great work is more work. So the title is sort of a riff on that. And it can wear you down, that state of being in performance punishment. And it can happen at work, it can happen in your personal life, your volunteer life, whatever, no matter what kind of organization you work for, no matter what level you're at, and sort of inside of
Mm-hmm.
that organization, it can happen. It can wear you out because, and so what I wanted to do with the book was share some of the unspokens in corporate America, the things that the people who seem to have it all figured out have figured out, and give
Mm-hmm.
people sort of a way to find their joy and reclaim their joy at work.
Now, that goes to the whole point of when you're good at something and people expect you to be good at it, and then they heap more on you because you're good at it. But what they're really
Yep,
doing is overburdening and overtaxing you because you're good
absolutely.
at it.
Like, absolutely. And the expectations become ridiculously like unrealistic, right? Oh yeah, she can do that. You know, like you MacGyver something, you pull a rabbit out of the hat, and suddenly that becomes the norm for you, but everybody else isn't expected to pull rabbits out of the hat. They're just expected to
Mm-hmm.
do their job like a normal person. And so the one time that you can't pull the rabbit out of the hat, suddenly everybody's disappointed. Oh, I expected more of you. So it's kind of like this swimming in quicksand thing, because the same forces that are inside of you, the same wiring that compels you to do an excellent job and give it your all and pull that rabbit out of the hat time after time after time, are the same things that trip you up, right? And make you
Mm-hmm.
frustrated. You're compelled to do it. You can't let it go. Yet you see your coworkers coming in at 8:59 and leaving at 4:01, and you're like, what am I doing wrong? And and the answer is nothing, but some other things. It's more around changing um, how you think about your work situation, and developing, having managerial courage, and developing your emotional intelligence, and learning how to manage expectations and communicate effectively, and develop all these softer skills that other people do extremely well, but we're not taught to do that. And I'm talking about communities of people who look like us, or
Mm-hmm.
others. In my case, I'm the first person in my entire family to work a corporate job and have a corporate career. So nobody told me this stuff. I was
Mm-hmm.
told school, work hard and you'll get rewarded. Well, the real world doesn't quite work that way. You should go to
Exactly.
school or get your education, learn your craft, and work hard at it. But there are softer skills that you can develop and that you need in order to manage your work so that your work doesn't manage you. And that's what my book is about.
Now, I know this might be a little touchy, but I got to go here because it's the
Okay.
reality that we face in 2018. You mentioned that you're the first in your family to be corporate. Now, how many people in your corporate setting look like you?
Oh man, not a lot. I throughout my 30 almost 30 years in corporate America, I have often been the only person of color. I've often been the only woman, and sometimes I've been the only twofer in the group too, African American and person of color. So I have been, and it's crazy. When I was in graduate school, I wrote, there was a chapter in my thesis that I said no more Jackie Robinsons, because at the time
Mm,
that was in 1992, And I did a blog post a couple of years ago for blogher.com about Misty Copeland. And I was like, no more Misty Copelands. How about that? Like, not that I
Mm-hmm.
don't want Misty Copelands, but what I'm saying is no more firsts. It's
Yeah.
2018. We've
And we're still dealing with first.
we've had a black president, but we still dealing with firsts. Exactly. And
Yeah.
not even monumental firsts like the president of the United States. I'm talking about first person to be a VP of marketing in a major corporation. Like, what's wrong with that picture? Like, we, both of my parents were the first in their families to graduate from college, but they didn't even have the options of colleges to pick from. You know, that was a time when we could only go to HBCUs, and
Mm-hmm.
so about the incredible purpose that they serve in terms of being a foundational component of our community and the uplift and the evolution of our community. I could go to any college I wanted to as long as I was quote unquote good enough to get in. That's one generation of change, right? So it's just insane to me with all the opportunities and the technology and everything that's available to us. My kids don't even think about, like this or that. They live in a world of and, right? Like they don't have
Mm-hmm.
like choose or whatever, which and I
And
think
more.
right. And I thank God for that, right? Because that's the whole
Mm-hmm.
purpose. We're supposed to continue and evolve, but there's still firsts. And to me, there's too many firsts. So every time I see the first this or the first that, I'm like, man, it's
We got a
2018.
long way to go.
We still, we're still doing this first.
Yeah, we here. We still here.
It's kind of bittersweet, like I'm excited that the barrier got broken and the ceiling got smashed, but man, like it always seems to feel a little late to me, even though I know it's right on time.
Now, how did you being on that isolated island of being a woman of color, being in this corporate setting, how did that frame your work? How did that frame your conversation? How did that frame your drive? How did that frame you, period?
Um, it's challenging. I had to really learn how to be how to give myself permission to let the true Liz show up at work.
Okay.
Because, you like this Liz that you like, I talk the same way to everybody, right? If
Mm-hmm.
I'm at work or if I'm at school or whatever, part of that is just my educational upbringing and my foundation. And my parents were like, you don't have to change anything about yourself for anybody. So you don't have to switch it up if we're, hanging with our friends in the hood, and you don't have to switch it up if we're up on Society Hill either. Just be you, right? So my parents
Mm-hmm.
instilled that at a very young age, and you get it from all different sides. I'll say. So first of all, it's about becoming comfortable with the skin that you're in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And knowing
Absolutely.
that and then knowing that you deserve to be there, that your credentials, your resume, whatever it is you're bringing to the table, you are worthy and deserving. You deserve to be there. And then you have to show up and show and prove, right? Because you're good, only as good at your last at bat. So I think, but now that I'm in sort of the more comfortable I got in doing those three things, the more freely I am now to express myself. Because there was a time when I was afraid to wear my natural curls at work, or like just
Mm-hmm.
things like that, because there was a time not that long ago when that wasn't acceptable everywhere.
Exactly.
And there were other women of color who were elder statesmen to me inside the company that would pull me off to the side and coach me on what I should or shouldn't wear, and and how I should look, and blah 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 blah. And you know and it was from a place of love, and they were telling me the unspoken rules that I wasn't aware of. But over time, as I got to be more comfortable with Liz, that I found my own way to be me in a corporate setting, which is ultimately what my work is about, teaching other people to
I
do the same.
I do want to ask you this. Did anybody ever pull you to the side and say, listen, don't bring in that sister girl up in here?
No, because I don't do sister girl.
But
I
but you
don't.
know how sometimes I have
I
experienced
yes,
conversations with people that say,
yes.
don't do angry black man. Don't show angry black man. I have
No, no.
had that happen to me. Ooh, don't show that emotion because they're going to go angry black man. So I was just wondering if anybody had that conversation with you. Because,
Yeah,
we get
well,
those conversations.
absolutely. Well, I will say this. I had the privilege and the challenge of going to private school my whole life. And so often, it's a academically, it's an invigorating experience, but socially, you learn sort of those things. You learn how to um, express yourself in a way that's appropriate for the environment that you're in, not in a sellout kind of a way or anything, but you learn sort of the tropes that people foist upon us sometimes: angry black man, sassy black woman, whatever. You learn those things at a very early age when you're in a situation like that. So, and so by the time I got into corporate settings, I didn't have that challenge. My challenge was more around my voice. I was almost overly sensitized to it, to the point where I didn't bring enough sass to be honest with you, like, and not, I was almost too agreeable. And, but then, working as a consultant and stuff like that, you learn to find your voice, and you
Mm-hmm.
learn that, that leaders in corporate America, the secret that I've had, like Bill Gates level people, and I've worked with some of the top CEOs and some of the biggest companies around. I learned a couple of things. One is they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like we do.
Absolutely.
And two, they don't want to be surrounded by yes men and yes women. They want people who are authentically themselves. So you have to be yourself, but you have to do it within the bounds of professionalism for that particular environment. And so, um, so my challenge was less around toning down who I am as a black woman, and more dialing up my voice and not being afraid to express myself, or not questioning my ability to be heard or taken seriously, because that's who I am.
Do you think that you'll ever get to the place where you will have some workshops and conferences around Black women in corporate America, in that experience, in that dynamic? Do you think that's something that you say, I got this expertise in and I can speak to this? Because there's not a lot. Like you said, you got there, you pretty much on your own.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question that, quite frankly, John, I had not really entertained. And I tell you why, because my experience, anything that I teach comes from my perspective. And so the examples that I use and stuff like that, if they're personal to me, you're getting a black woman's perspective on it. So so I would totally be open to partnering with others to do that kind of thing, because I know when I'm around my sorority sisters, for example, I feel lifted, hugged up, prayed up, loved on, and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that's important. In the companies I've worked in, I've made a point to join the African American employee resource groups, and just find your tribe in that particular situation. Um, I hadn't, like, in my book, I don't, I didn't write it for African American women or women, or I wrote it for people, like humans that are caught up in this performance
Mm-hmm.
punishment cycle, because it happened to anybody.
Absolutely.
And I didn't want to, one, I didn't want to limit the audience, but two, it's not just us that struggles with these things. So yeah, I'm actually entertaining a couple of speaking engagements for women of color conferences in the fall and stuff. So I love that audience, and I because that's who I am. So I love talking to my people, but I haven't, like, claim that as a mission for myself, because I think just in being authentically me and my journey and doing that authentically, I'm going to connect with women of color, because that's who I am, and that's
Mm-hmm.
that's where I'm coming from. So I would love to, like, if your listeners are out there and anybody's interested, I would love to get our heads together and do a power talk for African American women somewhere, or do something like that, because I think
Absolutely.
I think
I,
it's
I,
amazing.
I see a workshop coming. I see a conference coming.
Okay, well, we'll have to talk about that one too,
Yep.
because you're planting seeds that I had not really considered.
Is there another book in the works for you?
There are, and there are several. There's an unfinished book. Like the book that I started to write wasn't this one, which is kind of funny to say that. I started writing a book about my parenting journey because I became a parent in what I thought was sort of an unconventional way. I got my first two kids when I got married. They came with my husband. And then we adopted our daughter's best friend, when the girls were in high school. So
Oh wow.
my so my family journey, my journey into motherhood was kind of, I used to blog about it a lot because I used to struggle with, my authenticity as a mom. I used to question that,
Got you.
and stuff like that. But so I started out researching and writing this book on parenting, and somehow along the way, I I pivoted and wound up writing Great Work, Great Rewards in 21 days, and I haven't picked up the parenting journey book yet. But so that one's out there. I've outlined a sequel to Great Work, Great Rewards, which focus because the book is more geared towards individuals who are looking to navigate and thrive in corporate America, and the sequel would be more for corporations, which is sort of, I touch on that very briefly in the last chapter. But what can companies do to prevent top performers from getting burnt out and feeling underpaid and underappreciated and things like that? So I got a couple of different books, but now I'm into this purpose journey. So I don't know. I might
Okay.
write a book about, the power of saying no, and by, finding your way to yes by living in your purpose. So yes,
I love that.
multiple, there are multiple books swirling around in my head.
And
But my big priority right now is, in addition to like getting through some of these speaking conferences that I have booked and lined up, is I'm trying to convert my book into an online course so that I can
good.
get
I
that
like
message
that.
and the information out to more people without having to stand in the room all the time. So that's my first my big to do. And then, who
By
knows,
the
maybe I'll take
by the
another
way,
20.
one of our listeners just said they love the conference idea about Sisters in Corporate. They said they love
Oh,
that
okay.
conference idea. Telling you, you might be on
Okay.
to something.
Well, we might have to make that happen then.
Yeah, you have a unique perspective, and it'll be an inspiration to many. One of the things you mentioned often, and you mentioned my purpose statement, and my purpose statement is your passion is your permission to pursue your purpose.
Yes.
And I think what you're doing, what was evident in your speaking, is that you're in your purpose. You're walking in your purpose. You are fulfilling your intended purpose because we're all here for a reason. And one of the most miserable things in the world is to be outside of your intended purpose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was the point that I was at and didn't realize I was at when I crossed paths with the universe, connected me with this career coach, who took me on this journey and kind of forced me to force 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 me to kind of take this purpose journey, and I'm so thankful for that. And I just, like the talk that I'm doing at your upcoming conference, John, is the one on finding your yes by learning to say no. And it's got three parts to it. One is it's about permission, purpose, and practice. Like giving yourself permission to say no. How do you learn to do not just the importance of it, but like the corporate
Mhm.
person in me, you can't point, corporate America teaches you can't criticize something or point out what's wrong without bringing some proposed solutions. So everything
Uh-huh.
that I do is issue identification followed by practical actionable solutions. That's my wiring. So that's what I bring. So so we talk about so we're going to talk about learning how to give yourself permission to say no, and how to identify why it's important to live in your purpose and clarify and articulate your purpose, but how to actually do that. And then how to put some of these principles into practice and the power of practicing saying no and how to do that. So my book is like that. You know, I not only paint a picture of what performance punishment is, but it's part workbook too, to give people like the opportunity to self-check and course correct and track their
And
progress
reflect.
and reflect. Yeah, because a lot of it, you know, John, is about how you think, right? I heard Les Brown years and years and years ago say your attitude determines your altitude. I don't know if that's his, but he was the
Absolutely.
first I
Yep.
heard say it. But and a lot of, and that's always stuck with me. So we, you know, our brains are very powerful pieces of God-made technology, and
Hmm.
how we program them, how we feed them, how we nurture them, how we develop them, change, it can literally change our lives just like that.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you mentioned about reflecting and processing, because one of the things about the conference is that after each presenter, we're going to take 10 minutes and each group's going to, what did you hear? What resonated with you? To give them that time to speak about it, because the
Hmm.
power of reflecting and then speaking it out into the atmosphere is powerful. That means you're
Yeah,
allowing it to resonate with you. So I've built that into the conference, that after they hear a Liz Nolley Tillman, okay, what did you hear her say? What resonated with you? What did you glean? Because I want to give them
yeah,
that, not just to say, oh, they made me feel good. No, 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 no. What did I feel? What did I get? What am
that's
I
right.
processing based on what I heard?
That's
So
right.
it's so interesting that you mentioned that reflecting, that processing piece of it, the practicality of it.
Yeah, I mean, you saw you see me present at each kind of module, and when I do a workshop, I do do a pause for some self reflection, because, like you said, it's not only just important to say it out loud and to claim it for yourself and clarify it for yourself. It becomes really powerful when you physically go through the act of writing it down. There's neuroscience behind this. This isn't just Liz saying it, but it's scientifically proven that that's because the process of saying it out loud and then writing it down and claiming that for yourself in a physically manifested sort of way is
My
how
wife
you start.
has said that since the day we met. Write it
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, because that's how you start to reprogram this beautiful computer that is our brain, you know, to think differently. And um it's the process of doing that is so powerful that, you know, that's sort of the science behind vision boards and things like that. It's just the act of writing something down really starts to is the important first step in just kind of reprogramming your mindset.
Well, Liz, I want to thank you so much for being my guest and for sharing your
Oh, please.
perspectives. You
My
have
pleasure.
a wealth of perspectives to bring. I can't wait till August 18th
Oh,
for
I'm
you
looking
for you to
so
do your thing.
forward to
I
it.
cannot wait. And can you give us some more information about how to reach you?
Yeah, sure. I have a website, my blog. It's liznollytillman.com, LiznollyTillman, liznollytillman.com. And if you go there, there's a little form that'll pop up. You know, because I believe in sharing information that has helped me to help others. You can sign up, you can get a free toolkit, and it's got some best practices and good information from coaches who are friends of mine that graciously gave of their information, time, and talents to bless my readers and subscribers. So, as a little thank you gift, if you join my mailing list, you'll get that as an instant download. It's free, and there's great information around coachability and success strategies and things like that. And then you'll never miss my blog post. So liznollytillman.com, and you can find out my upcoming speaking engagements and read more about my book and my upcoming projects and things there.
And you have a podcast as well, correct?
No. Actually, it's funny you would say a podcast. I've been thinking about doing something like that. I think my
See, here I
brain
go
is so
again.
much. I know, right? So my brain has been going in so many directions, but I have to practice what I preach. And one of the things that I talk about in my work-life balance workshops and in my book is eating the elephant. How do you eat the elephant one bite at a
One bite at a
time?
time.
I got to go one bite at a time, but that might be another bite coming down the pipeline in the not so distant future. So stay tuned.
All right. Everybody, Liz Nolley Tillman, author, entrepreneur, inspirational speaker, corporate VP, mom, dog lover,
Yes, all those things.
all those
All those
things.